Hello and welcome to this Busters Taste Challenge. I have two 40% alcohol blended Scotch whiskies. This is McCormick Distillery, the Halliday Distillery of Western Missouri. Founded in 1856, that long ago. This is blended Scotch whiskey, aged 3 years, bottled in Missouri. There's a Scottish bagpiper on the label, and the label looks like a yellow picnic tablecloth. Nice looking label, I think. But it's no longer listed on their website. It used to be. And they had this on discount, super discount at a store in Jefferson Parish, Louisiana, for $4.99 for this liter bottle. That sounds preposterous, but it's the truth. It really was that price. Hard to believe. And I even saw plastic bottles there also. I think those were 750 milliliters. But whatever, $4.99, unbelievable. Thank you, David, for this gift. He bought a bunch of bottles. We thought, well, it might be pretty nasty, for that price. But it turns out it's a lot better than you would imagine. It's a pretty good, solid Scotch whiskey. Too bad they got rid of it, or apparently got rid of it. Now, I sent the company an email asking them, is it still in production or discontinued? I got no response. So you don't want to respond. I'm just going to say it's probably discontinued. Now, it's very pale straw. I don't get the impression that there's any coloring added. Now, here's Johnnie Walker Double Black. Now, I thought, man, this stuff's been on the market a long time, I bet you, but it's only been 15 years. Now, Johnnie Walker Black, yeah, that's been around since 1867. But it had a different name back then. It was called Old Highland 12-year age Scotch whiskey. And then in 1909, they renamed it the Johnnie Walker Black 12-year age with the Johnnie Walker. But this is the Double Black from 2010. And then it's got an insignia on the cap showing that it is produced under a royal warrant by the royal family of England, King Charles III, King of England, Scotland. This is made in the Kingdom of Scotland. The Isle of Man, Gibraltar, Canada, Tuvalu, the Solomon Islands, the Falkland Islands, and other realms and territories around the world. All right. Basically any consumer product can apply to receive a royal warrant. It's a program. I was looking at their website. You have to submit the product, and this team, it's like a team, certification team. They'll review the product and evaluate it if it meets what they call their quality standards, and it's good for 5 years. It doesn't really mean that the royal family is drinking it or eating the candy, whatever the product is, but they might be. But it's an official whiskey of the royal family, and you have that in sports, like the official back pain medicine of the New York Yankees, stuff like that. Companies apply to get that, and you might not get renewed if they determine something, whatever. But here is it's pretty dark. Now, is it colored with caramel coloring? I don't know. They don't make any claim that it's natural color, so that usually indicates something. But no age statement, so we don't know how long it's aged. We know it's at least 3 years. Usually you can find bottles of this for about $45, maybe even less. I got a great deal on these. So these little mini bottles, I bought enough to make a whole bottle because they were so cheap. And they still sell the Johnnie Walker stuff in the little bottles at Mathern's, but the price is going way up to the what you would expect it to be for an airplane bottle. They call these airplane bottles because they sell them on the airplanes, on a long flight, and they're always exorbitantly high. When I was on the last flight, when I went to Puerto Rico, they had those things, and it was like Jim Beam, Jack Daniels, Johnnie Walker, Jose Cuervo, you know, typical Tito's vodka, typical, and it was like $10 or $12. If you got the cheaper brand, it was $10, and a better brand was 12. I'm like, are people crazy? No one should have to be that urged, you know, crave alcohol that much that you're going to pay $10 for a little one shot. It's insanity, in my opinion. So I just laugh, you know, I'm on the plane and I just say, huh, it's crazy, you know. And then they charge so much for the beer. Like they had, I don't know, it must be a big Anheuser-Busch InBev thing, because every flight I've been on lately, they got either Goose Island IPA or believe it's Elysian Space Dust, both from them, the parent company. And they're $8 a can. I'm like, well, I like Goose Island IPA, but I'm not paying no $8 a can. I can get a whole 6-pack at Walmart for $10.99. But people go on trips and they like lose all perspective about paying all kind of outrageous amounts of money, and I just can't get over it, you know. And then I was seeing people order this sandwich and salad combo on the plane. I was like, well, that looks pretty good. And then you see the price, it's like, that don't look too good to me. Oh, well, that's the way it is. Let's look at the website. Can't show you McCormick because, like I said, there is nothing anymore listed for that product. I mean, there's a McCormick website, of course. Johnnie Walker Double Black, an impressive blended Scotch whiskey to share whatever the occasion. And then you see that the Royal Warrant thing. There's the whole bottle, and they use brown glass, which is good. It protects it from the light. Although these airplane bottles are clear glass, so that's a difference. They use I guess it's cheaper, the clear glass, because it doesn't have to be colored brown. But the Rebellious, it says our boldest Scotch whiskey yet. Should be a comma before yet, but I don't think people are too worried about grammar these days. Maybe I'm the only one. The rebellious younger sibling of Johnnie Walker Black Label. And I'm talking about grammar, and I didn't even put the correct when I said possibly discontinued. It should be possibly, comma, discontinued. But anyway. Whiskies from the west coast of Scotland, Islay, I would imagine, are chosen for their naturally smoky flavor, Islay. In charred barrels, so they aged this in charred oak, making for a full blend with a deep brooding intensity. Okay, all right. And there's a bold experience, the electric energy of an imminent storm. Well, I think maybe they're overplaying it, but often with Johnnie Walker Gold Label Reserve. Yes, I have that too, and that's more hunted. And that's also non-age stated these days. It used to be an old 12-year age years ago, or 15-year, but they redid it in 2012, just making they have other age. There are definitely other age Johnnie Walker, but this is non-age stated. Okay. So is it going to be any kind of real change? The answer is no, it isn't going to be. Because there's no way you're going to confuse McCormick with Johnnie Walker Double Black. Now, you might prefer McCormick for various reasons, but you're not going to confuse the two. They're two different. Now, Claude Diamond, who joined us just last night on our Jokers Bar Wednesday, says, you know how I dislike smoky stuff? I said, I know, Claude. He would hate Johnnie Walker Double Black. Now, Scotch whiskey is typically aged in used American bourbon barrels. That's not a law of any sort. The law only states it has to be aged at least 3 years in oak barrels. Charred, yeah. Uncharred, fine. New, fine. Used, fine. Doesn't matter. Could be rye barrels or a brand new barrel that they charge us for this product. You know, it's all according to what the distiller wants to do. Crown Royal typically is aged in used bourbon barrels, but the Crown Royal Black is aged, I think, in new charred oak, which is totally, like I said, allowed. It's all up to the purview of the distiller. just as long as it's aged in an oak barrel. You see, so now you say, well, yeah, but with bourbon, it has to be charred and new. Correct. That's right. So bourbon, American bourbon has more specific guidelines, more detailed guidelines, not as open, wide open as that. Although the aging is flexible, you see, in Scotland, in Canada, and Ireland, the minimum age is 3 years. There's no wiggle room on that. The youngest whiskey you can get is 3 years. But with bourbon, that isn't required. It's just aged, non-specific amount of time. Although you'll see people on the internet saying all the time, oh, bourbon has to be aged at least 4 years. There's no rule about that unless it's bonded bourbon. Now, bottled and bond, yeah, it has to be at least 4 years. If it's straight bourbon, it has to be at least 2. But I said bourbon in general. Bourbon in general is no specific. All right, let's go with this. This smells very neutral. Is it a bad aroma? No, because there is no aroma, basically. Okay, smoke. This has smoke, so therefore, ipso facto, by just minimal logic, it's the Johnnie Walker Double Black. So that's the challenge. No tasting required. But of course, I'm going to taste it just to, see what I prefer. I know I'm going to prefer the Double Black because I prefer Johnnie Walker Double Black over pretty much everything I have. And I have a few more of these bottles left unopened, so I've been able to draw it out, string it along, No, I mean, naturally, I would prefer a 750 milliliter bottle. But if I'm able to find something for $12 cheaper that adds up to 750 milliliters, common sense, I'm going to pay the $12 cheaper. I end up getting it for like $37, not $49. So heck. Now, did I expect that deal to last? Absolutely not. Did it last? No way. Those kind of deals never last. I mean, why would they? That's why it's called a special deal. Oh, that smoke. I love it. Now, that one's more honey and maybe a little peat. If you really think about it long enough, you'll pick up a little peatiness, but it's minimal. Oh, man. Woo! Smokehouse. Smokehouse. You might say, man, I'd love to try a beer that was smoky. Can you imagine making a smoked beer? Well, they actually do have smoked beers. They're called Rauch beers. They're typically from Germany, although they make them in the United States. You can't find them. But there's a brewery in Bamberg, Germany. Bamberg, I would say, but Bamberg. And that's what they specialize in. They make smoked beers. I wouldn't say it's a gimmick. It is in a way because, I mean, I'm not going to say that. It's just a style, but they do upcharge it, But I found what I've noticed about these smoke beers, when you first smell it and taste it, man, it's just a smoke bomb. It's like amazing. And then if you keep sipping the beer, it dissipates, and then it just tastes like regular old lager beer. Oh, very good one. Always an A, the worst beer I ever got from that company was an A, But I kind of like those. I noticed I like with the banana bread beers, the sticky toffee pudding ales, and so forth. They have that rush of flavor, but then it's sort of like I say, it doesn't really stay. It goes to just beer. Whereas with this whiskey, that smoke hangs around, doesn't dissipate. I mean, it might. I'm not going to find out. Just sipping them. Now, McCormick, it's nice. Has a honey flavor. Of course, sugar water. All whiskey to me, I say this incessantly, tastes like sugar water. It has a medium body, a dry finish. Johnnie Walker Double Black, medium body, dry finish. Peaty, it's not overly peaty, but it's a little bit. But it's smoke. That's the lead. I mean, look at the website. We just looked at it earlier. That's all they're talking about. Smoke, bold. It is bold. A lot of people would interpret that as harsh. You know, you might say, well, bold is a nice way of saying harsh. Okay. Yeah, they do that with beer. They'll say this bold high gravity lager. You know, they don't want to say strong, but that's everybody knows that's what they're talking about. But so now it's a personal preference issue. I think the quality is definitely an A. But if you don't like smoky stuff, then why would you buy it? It wouldn't make any sense. If you do like smoky products, this would be one to check out. McCormick, it's solid. I wouldn't go lower than a B. I can't think right now what exact number I'd give, but I wouldn't go lower than a B. You could say it's sort of ordinary. Yeah, I'll go along with that. Just an ordinary, regular, old run-of-the-mill Scotch whiskey. No problem. But yeah, like a B, it's good. So can you find a good Scotch for $4.99? Well, my friend David did, and I saw it over there at that store too. So yeah, you can. Definitely. Yeah, you can't. Well, maybe in Louisiana on an off week, strange week, you can find it. Normally in the real world, you can't find that. I saw the regular price for this in Texas was $18, which I think is a fair price. Now I have bought some cheap Scotch that tastes very weird and definitely irregular, and I would call it improper. The Winn-Dixie, the Legacy. It's like, I tasted those. I'm like, ain't no way Scotch supposed to taste like this. You could still argue it to a B minus. Like, yeah, it has some good qualities. I guess it is good in a way. I know it's a seller. Winn-Dixie Scotch is a strong seller, but that's only because it's $18 for a huge 1,750 milliliter bottle, a jug bottle, or handles as they call them. If it was a normal price, people probably wouldn't buy it. It's, you wonder about that. All these Winn-Dixie cheapo whisk, they got bourbon, real bourbon whiskey with a horse on it. Canadian whiskey, Scotch, but no American blending, which I find odd. But none of them anything you wanted to look for, track down, or hunt by any stretch of the imagination. But they move. Now their rum is pretty good, I have to say. It's actually a little bit better than you would expect, and their tequila is quite good. They're gold and silver, so those do much better on flavor than you would expect for $18 for a huge handle, because you think it would just be a nightmare, but it isn't. In fact, it's very pleasant. I'd buy it over Cuervo because it's not as good as Cuervo. Not that that's anything fabulous, but it's a good deal cheaper. So their vodka, I've never tried it. I've never tried the Winn-Dixie gin, which is always cheap as chips, as they say in merry old England. And their vodka, and they have 100 proof vodka. There's two different vodkas they sell. Winn-Dixie vodka, just straightforward stuff. It's always very low. And the 100 proof, which is a little higher as expected. Any good? Don't know. Never tried it. Must be good. People buy it, or at least tolerable. I mean that Colson's vodka I bought at a pharmacy chain is pretty dang good. Pretty good. Good. Let's say good. I don't want to overplay it, but it's not bad. And it's all gone now. I drink it all with those mix-ups. So McCormick, I got one more challenge coming up, which is the Johnnie Walker Gold Label Reserve. McCormick doesn't stand a chance, although I think it will be a little bit more of a challenge, at least in some theoretical way, because it's honey. It has that honey. This thing has that honey nose. I mean, a honey flavor kind of. And Johnnie Walker Gold Label Reserve focuses on honey flavoring, not flavoring. It's not flavor, but just honey notes, which I don't know how that comes about. Must be some with the single malts that they add have a honey aspect. But it's going to be a higher quality. It's aged much longer. And those bottles run you about $60. It'd be about $60 a bottle. Yep, but I didn't pay that. I found it for the greatest price in the world. And I'll never see that price again. I'm pretty sure. Okay, getting a little sea salt here, brine. Very, as they say on the website, very west coast of Scotland, Isla area Scotch. And some people get a conniption fit over blended Scotch. It's like, I don't drink blended Scotch. I'm too good for that. But they never can really explain why. It's like, well, what's the issue with blended Scotch? Well, they'll say, well, it's not single malt. Well, I know that. But you say, but what's the issue with it? You don't get an answer. Or they'll say something like, it's not real Scotch. What? What are you talking about? Because it's not all single malted barley. But that's a ridiculous statement to make. That would tell me that maybe you don't know what whiskey is, because that is a type of Scotch. So I had somebody tell me that with American whiskey. He still does videos on the internet. I'm not going to name him, but he tells me, oh, that's not true whiskey. Talking about like Seagram's VO and VO Gold. I'm like, what? Did he explain what he meant? No. What he said, did it make any sense? No. Maybe he should study the law, read the regulations, but I'm sure he's never once in his life glanced at that. Not once, but he's an expert. And he'll let you know that. Craft Beer Tastic says, do you seek out these crazy bargains, or are they just happenstance? Second part, just happenstance, definitely. Was I looking for McCormick? No way. I knew about it, but I'm figuring, I ain't looking for that. So, but my friend David called me all frantic. You ain't gonna believe this. You ain't gonna believe it. I said, what now? He's like, they got McCormick Scotch for $4.99. I said, what? I said, I've heard of McCormick. I said, what are you talking about? I'm thinking like some little half-size bottles, big deal. He said, no, it's a liter bottle. And then I was like stunned, I said, what? Yeah, liter bottles. Now he was wondering, should he buy it though? Because he said, I don't like that McCormick American blended whiskey. I bought him a bottle once, $5.99 a bottle, cheap. I don't like that stuff. But somebody likes it because it's all around my town, all around New Orleans area, McCormick, and every kind of bottle size you ever wanted to see, and their vodka and their gin. So somebody likes it from Missouri, But I said, well, I told him, I said, let's look at this. It's been around a long time. The company's from the 1850s. I'm sure they're not. But I said, but you didn't like the blended whiskey, so I don't know. I said, but for $4.99, what is the risk? Really, what is the risk? He agreed, no risk. So he told me later, I bought a bunch of bottles. I said, yeah, if you bought 10 bottles, that's $49.99. Would I buy 10 bottles of Scotch for $50? Yeah, especially if it's liter bottles. Hopefully it'd be good, which in this case it is. Now, we did run across a situation about 4 years ago where a local store, they're going out of business this month. See, liquor stores in Louisiana never make it. They almost never make it because there's too many grocery stores sell liquor. But anyway, they had James Fox Canadian blended whiskey you could buy a case for $50. They give you the whole box, case, 12 bottles, $50. David said, let's buy it. Let's buy it. We'll split it. $25 a person, 6 bottles each. I said, that's good. Obviously, that's a great price. I said, but James Fox isn't really that good. It's not bad, but it's not really something to run behind. I said, and what you going to do with it? He was like, yeah, that's true. So we didn't buy it. Gabe says, hi, good morning. It's 4:23 a.m. in Arizona. Hello, Gabe. So yeah, Every deal we see, we don't buy it. I could have given James Fox as a gift to people, but they wouldn't have ever drunk it. They would say, "Oh man, thanks," and I asked them 5 years later, "What did you think about that James Fox?" I never did open it. See, that's what happens. Like they didn't pay for it, so they ain't gonna drink it. Now, if you gave people Crown Royal, they'd be like, "Oh man, you're my best friend." They'd love it. It is better. I agree with that. I don't know about way better, but it's better. But so anyway, the the short answer to that question is yes. I have seen these bargains over the years many times in Louisiana, but no, I never look for them. They just pop up like these airplane bottles. One day I was just in that store and I looked and I was like, I just was like staring at the tags because I'm thinking this is not correct. It's like, how sometimes you think like, did I get enough sleep last night or am I, dehydrated or something? It was like, I'm just staring at the bottles. And I was like, this is unreal, and you just don't believe it. But it's true because it's there. Like when I found that Nika from the barrel, that runs $90. On the high end, it's 90. On the low end, it's 79. I mean, we're really talking about $79 to $90 per bottle. It ain't no cheap thing. You say, well, I found it for 75. Okay, maybe that could happen. Maybe, but probably not. But maybe, okay. They had it for $9.99. They had 2 bottles. That's it, $9.99. Now I was stunned, so I bought it. Did I really have a desire to buy Japanese whiskey at that moment? No. And they had the Suntory. It's a golden. I can't remember the name. A golden sunshine or something like day sunshine, and that runs about 35 at least. And they had or 40, and they had it for $9.99. So I had no plan to buy Japanese whiskey that day. But when I saw those 2 bottles for $9.99 each, all of a sudden I had a plan to buy Japanese whiskey that day. See how it works? So that's the answer, Craft Beer Tastic. Never look for the products. I'm never on the hunt for these deals, really. But they show up. Last month, I went to Aldi to get some bread and some lettuce or something. I know it was bread, at least. And I'm looking, and the man, when I was getting ready to check out, the man walked over and clipped some signs onto these pallets while I was standing there. And my eyes got big like marbles, like 99 cents a 6-pack. Have I ever seen beer for 99 cents a 6-pack? No. The cheapest I ever saw it when I was buying beer in 1996 was $1.99, 6-pack, Falstaff. All right. I'm like, what am I looking at? 99 cents for chocolate peanut butter porter from Wisconsin, chocolate lava cake stout, 8% from the other one was 6%, 8% from Wisconsin. Well, guess what? I walked out of that store with a whole bunch of 6-packs, and it didn't cost me $6. Couldn't get over that one. And it sounds like I'm making it up. Some people almost like imply I'm making it up. I'm lying. I'm not lying. But Erwin Papa says, what's your most cherished comic book? Notice quite a collection you got there. Most cherished? I don't know. That's hard to say too. Y'all asking me some hard questions. I have the first issue of the Incredible Hulk, 1962, Hulk #1, but it's not in good condition. It's kind of ragged. It's very ragged, but it's there. I mean, you can see it. I put it on the wall, and people are like, oh, Hulk #1, man. I only paid $32 for it, and that was in 1986. In 1986, I paid $32 for that book, that magazine. I just gave the guy 3 10s and 2 1s. He said, okay. Now, in all these years, it might be worth 46, because it's in bad shape. But I would say maybe it's Hulk #181. The Incredible Hulk number 181, which is the first appearance of Wolverine. And that thing is in good condition. Like, you look at that comic book that I've got, you think it's new. Like, the colors all rich. There's no wrinkles on it. Like, you could put it on the shelf at a magazine stand today and people would think it's new. Of course, they would see it's 25 cents and they realize it's not new. But man, I paid $15 for that in around 86, 87, because I had bought an original one that was kind of ragged looking, and I paid like 15. And then I paid 15 for this. And then I sold the ragged one for like 25. So I ended up getting paid $10 to get it. You know what I mean? So the ragged looking one, it looked like somebody put a coffee cup on top of the cover and let it get a ring on it. But I had it, you know, I was like, I got it. First appearance of Wolverine. And then oh, nice. Thank you. Oh, you're welcome, Erwin. So but I didn't like it. So I found, somebody told me, yeah, they got this dude at Ace Hardware. He got a first appearance of Wolverine. So I was like, oh, I'm sure it's terrible looking, you know. But I went over there and I was like, trying not to show that I was about to have a heart attack in front of the store or inside the store. And I was like, trying to talk straight, you know. I said, I'll give you $15, just throwing it out there, you know, like testing the waters. I'll give you $15. He says, okay. And I was like, woof. So now I got something that's nice, but he didn't want it, you know what I mean? Got $15. This thing about comic books, they theoretically worth money, but nobody ever offers you any money for them. So, but, so I have it in the boxes. And then I had that raggedy looking one and I said, okay. And I was telling people, I was just dropping that, you know, I said, I got Hulk 181. Oh, and so of course, eventually somebody was like, oh man, I want that. And he looked at it and he said, it's kind of messed up. I said, yeah, it is. I said, I'll sell it for 25. Where he got his wallet and he was like, here you go. So supposedly, I ain't seeing no yayo, but supposedly it's worth all kind of money today. But I basically got Hulk number 181 for $10, but given to me. I made $10 on flipping it. So that was nice. But and I like to put it up there on the wall. You know, people are like, oh man, that's a reprint. You ought to get the original. I'm like, no, that is the original. Yeah. It's funny because at the time nobody wanted it. You know, it was the X-Men were dead in the water. They were not popular. The Incredible Hulk was kind of popular, not really, but sort of. And but Marvel comic books was like, we're going to revamp the X-Men because it's a dog title. No one buys it, but we're going to revitalize it. So they started quietly introducing these characters to different popular or sort of popular books. So they brought in Wolverine, Weapon X was his real name at the time, the code name Weapon X from Canada, Canadian Special Forces, kind of like Captain America, a super soldier created through science, you know. And okay, but the whole point was to bring these characters in and then integrate them into the all different X-Men, which debuted in 1975 with X-Men Giant Size #1, which I used to have, and like a fool, I got rid of it. I got that for cheap. But that took off like wildfire. You know, you just don't think. And Walmart, Marvel. I don't know why I said Walmart. Marvel, Walmart. They both have M's and L's. But Marvel probably was thinking, it's gonna bomb. You know, they probably figured it was gonna bomb, but they didn't spend any money on it. So what the heck? They got a artist no one ever heard of hardly, and a writer that was not well known. So they probably paid him cheap. Chris Claremont, Dave Cochran, not renowned artists by any means in 1975. They probably figured, just throw it out there. Who knows what could happen? They did bring in some of the original X-Men, like the Beast, who had got reformulated as a hairy monster, and Marvel Girl, renamed Phoenix, soon to be in X-Men 101, and Cyclops, of course, Dr. Xavier X, but then new characters. So figure what the heck, it ain't selling anyway. Put it out there. If it bombs, cancel it. No big deal. But that thing took off like wildfire. It wasn't even made every month. For a while, it was every other month, 6 times a year. But it went from the dogs to the number one product pretty fast. And then when they brought in, then they started bringing in some higher paid people. Then the popularity really went up. And then, of course, everybody was hustling to find X-Men Giant Size number 1, which they had ignored in 1975. But I found it. And I couldn't figure out what that guy was doing. He had it for $10, and it was in good shape. I was like, I remember saying, well, I was looking both ways, like something going on here. Am I under surveillance? But I bought it $10, and I found X-Men number 4, the new and improved. I found it, and I didn't pay a lot. I kept finding all these books, and I'm like, I don't know what this guy is up to. But I got the whole run all the way up to 1990. But then I started getting sick of X-Men because they kept screwing it up. Then it became all about toys and merchandise. So then the whole storyline deteriorated. And I was like, I don't even know who these people are. It was all to sell toys. And I was like, I don't care about toys. I know that much. And I traded the whole thing. The whole thing in one day. I got a lot for it. I went into that comic shop. I'm like, I want to trade all of this for what you got on the wall. And he looked through the box. He's like, he told his assistant, take all that off the wall. Take all that off the wall. How do you feel about these new woke comics, says Brunson. I tell you how I feel. I feel like I never buy comic books anymore since 2001. 2021. I don't buy all that trash. Do you think Disney buying the Marvel intellectual property lowered the value of your Marvel collection? It certainly didn't increase it. Craft Beer-tastic, it certainly did not increase it. And I thought that they would destroy it, and I thought correctly. I mean, you could see what's going to happen. So I said, I'm out of here. I can't read this. This is junk. But that's been going on since 1989. It didn't start last week. But it got worse, So, but I said, nah, I'm out. I'm done with it. But it was a nice run, 1975, when I got the Batman comic book, to 2021. But then I was finished with it. So if you want to buy these, call me up. Somebody did try to buy them, but I said, nah, I didn't want to buy them. I didn't do it. Anyway, if I sell them, I'll only have his money and I won't have my comic books. Money, they got money all around, right? But not these. Okay, y'all take care now. Bye-bye.